So a while back it was suggested to me that I do a review of Wargame Red Dragon. I played a bit of the series and with Steel Division 2 on the horizon the time is ripe. But regardless of the upcoming game, it's safe to say that not many people prefer Steel Division over Wargame. Why is that? Well, I want to find out. This first video will be a review of Red Dragon, the next one will be a comparison between it and its World War II brethren. But for now it's Cold War time. The first thing you need to know about Wargame is that this game is more complex than your typical RTS. If you were expecting something like World in Conflict, then you'll be surprised. For example, let's go take a look at the
Hospital, please.
So yeah, there's a lot of units and you're never going to memorize every single matchup, but of course there's a certain common sense to the balance. For example, more expensive tanks will usually beat the cheaper ones, and ATGM infantry will be a threat to tanks, but it's usually outmatched in a direct firefight. Air superiority fighters will perform better against planes than multi-rolls, napalms better against infantry than vehicles, and so on. In time, you get a feel for when your unit should win an engagement or not. But for now, we'll put the gameplay aside. So there's a billion units. How do you decide what to bring? Well, the game uses decks. Yeah, like in a card game, the name's dumb, I know. But here's how it works. You could make a blue 4 deck and use units from every nation west of the Berlin Wall and south of North Korea, but then you don't get access to the most modern units and your army is smaller. What you can choose is a coalition or a single nation if you prefer. So now you get access to all prototypes and you can bring more units. Moreover, if you wanted to do so, you can further specialize your deck. If you like helos and infantry, make an airborne deck. If you like tanks, there's armored and so on. They give you experience bonuses and more slots for those kind of units, but you don't get access to everything. Lastly, you can give your deck a time limit. Like if you don't want modern units, you can bring more old units? Just in case you want to bring Su-76s to an MBT fight. I don't think I've seen anyone use this in the admittedly few games I've played. I'm sure there's uses though. I suggest you try making your first decks on your own and then test them against the AI. You'll quickly realize you're missing something and you'll keep improving it. I love theory crafting, so making decks is one of the most enjoyable things for me. Then, when you just need to optimize, you can always ask the player base. You can do it anywhere, but there's a handy dandy in-game chat to ask this amazingly useful and friendly community.
Gornostrelki, yay or nay?
Nay.
Gay sex. I like
Yay, I say. Very good infantry combat, ATGM.
Putin.
I've never used 4chan as an adjective, but this community is very 4chan.
Did someone say anti-Semitism?
It's also the kind of global chat you can show uncensored without losing your YouTube channel. Let's just say a lot of people play Anzac. So, what do you do in a wargame match? Well, first of all you tell your teammates where you want to go and then you deploy your units accordingly. How do you decide what to start with? There's a lot to consider. Are you going to focus on a town? What enemies are you facing? What are your teammates bringing? Are you going to be alone or will you be able to rely on allied units? Let's say you were playing an airborne deck. You want to use your allies, right? The enemy will bring air defense. So bring a seed plane for those sweet anti-radar missiles. But the enemy will probably have a fighter, so bring your own anti-air. So watch out for enemy seeds and maybe bring your own fighter. The point is, you don't know what the enemy will bring at the beginning. You also don't know what the enemy has on the field. A gigantic part of this game's decision making is based on information. Most of your units are blind as bats, so bring some recon. Recon units can see better, but aren't the be all and end all of information warfare. When you want to make a push, you need to bring bombs and artillery to fire at where you think the enemy is, rather than where you know it is. So there's a certain risk you need to take to make things happen. This lack of information is what makes the games great, and at times not so great. For example, there's the infamous rush strategy. One more note on the gameplay spectrum is the skill required. This game has very little micromanagement and absolutely no micro skill is needed. You can group and split units, you can make them reverse, move, fast move or attack move. There's a bit of micro involved in shutting down weapons on feeding units and radar guns and missiles when enemy seed planes are up. The infantry can exit and enter building extremely fast, so you can make them hop around to retreat and attack quickly, but that's it. Not that this is a bad thing, it makes matches more of a logic puzzle than a battle of reflexes. There's also some randomness to the fights. Units have a health bar, but the guns aren't accurate like in regular RTSs. Far from it. You might get very unlucky and eventually your civ plane will get shot down by radar guided anti-air, or your TGM infantry will miss all shots on an approaching napalm tank. I don't think this randomness detracts from the experience, it's part of it, and veterancy, suppression and rank all alleviates its impact. Oh, and I forgot, there are 2 game modes. First up is Conquest. Conquest is about putting command units in these objective zones to gain points. The difference in point gets added up to the total score, and the first team to reach 500, or the team with the highest score at the end, wins. CVs are usually pretty fragile unless they're expensive tank CVs, and the most valuable zones can be contested by both teams. So this game mode leads to amazing coordinated pushes to kill the enemy CV and make sure they can get back in the objective. On the other end there's Destruction. In Destruction you win by destroying enemy units, so everyone just stands still and spams artillery. In both modes there are additional ways to win. The starting zone is where your units come from. If you don't own the zone, then you can call them in anymore. If you kill all the enemy CVs, then you'll be awarded a win. It's also technically possible to draw both game modes if the teams are reasonably close score-wise. What about the single player? There are some very nice campaigns that allows you to play around Asia. They're all set in some what-if scenarios, and the presentation is my favorite part.
June 1982.
What if violent South Korean protests led to the North invading? What if Thatcher brought too much guns to the Chinese and they decided to invade Hong Kong? What if China had their own Vietnam War that led to conflict with Russia? The game divides the campaign map in sectors where you can move army units of various sizes and types in. It ends up giving you skirmishes where either you or the enemy are missing a part of a normal deck and have to make do. Plus there's movement, morale and strength to consider. Story-wise I like how grounded they can be. In the Hong Kong campaign for example, you're not trying to conquer China by yourself, you're trying to hold on until reinforcements come so peace can be negotiated. I've been warned that they can be hard, but the AI isn't really amazing when its resources are limited. They're still fun to play though. So should you buy this game? Well, the multiplayer's not dead, not by a long shot, but the game isn't exactly new player friendly. You might be able to find a noob only game to join, but I can't vouch for all time zones. Even if you can get one going, they're a mixed bag. Your teammates might be better than you, or they might just sit at the nearest objective zone and let you do all the fighting. And of course there's the usual crybabies saying that you're a cheater smurf because they left their flank completely unguarded. And no, I'm not a secret Wargame god, I found this guy crying at more people in the global chat. Although I did spend 282 of my 40 game hours in menus apparently, I'll definitely continue playing this game and we can be sure the servers will be up forever, so all in all I'll say to try this game if you want, but only if it's on sale. Not because it's not worth the money, but because you kind of need a fresh batch of new players to play with. And I'm not saying this because it's hard to play with veterans, it's because veterans won't play with you at all. So wait for a sale unless you enjoy being kicked from lobbies, or just want a single player I guess. I'd really like Eugen to make a sequel to the series, with some of the modernization that Steel Division has, like the line of sight checker, or some more interesting maps, like one with a big hill overlooking the battlefield giving units more range or vision. Maybe set it in modern times, so more scenarios are possible. I feel like the Cold War has been milked dry. Well, fingers crossed for Steel Division 2 I guess. So that was Wargame. Next up we'll be putting Steel Division under the microscope. I've already got some ideas about why people don't like it as much as Wargame. Also I've skipped naval combat because nobody plays it, so who cares. See ya!